Hey guys, we're here with another video. I want to go over an easy home project that you can do on your own. That is building floating shelves. Similar to the ones right here behind me, I'm going to be building some floating shelves for my bathroom remodel. If you've ever looked into buying floating shelves, you'll notice that they're either really expensive or they're hollow, which means that they're kind of cheaply made, and if you put anything of substance on it, they will warp. So I'm going to show you a nice trick on how to build these, and what we'll need for this project is a piece of lumber. For the shelves that I want to build, I'm using a 2x8, and we're just going to use a chop saw to cut this down to size. I'm going to build 2 shelves out of this. If you don't have a chop saw, where you buy your lumber from, either Lowe's or Menards, I know they will cut it right in the store for you. So our first step is we're going to cut off the ends just to clean it up, and then I'll cut these down to size. The other item that we're going to use are these brackets, and I found these off of Amazon. I'll link those and I'll show you a little bit later on in this video how we're using these in this project. So let's go ahead and we'll head out to the chop saw and cut this down to length. Hey, we're moved into the garage just to make a couple quick cuts. So this is my piece of wood. I've already cut off the end to clean it up, and I've made my mark of where I want to make the shelf at. I'm making them 26 inches long. So I've already measured that out, made my line here to make that cut. We are going to be using this chop saw here. If you don't have a chop saw, another option is if you see this DeWalt back here, you could use that type of saw. So I'm going to go ahead and make my cut. So I have my first shelf ready. The next step is I'm going to take the rest of my lumber here and measure out my 26 inches and mark that off. I did want to tell you one more step that I'm going to do is you'll notice that my lumber does have a rounded edge in the front and the back, and I want this perfectly square. So I'm going to actually take a table saw and cut off part of the front. If you don't mind the look of the rounded shelf, you can totally skip this step and just move on to the next step following that. So I've got my table saw here. We have a small table saw. I don't like using it very often. So if you don't feel comfortable using a table saw, I assure you the shelves will look great without cutting the edge off. I have my guard set to about a 1/2 inch, so I'm going to take off a 1/2 inch off the front of this shelf. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Alright, so I'm back in the bathroom where my shelves are going to go. I marked my lines on my wall where I want to hang those, and I've got my shelves here. I did take a 120 grit sandpaper to them just to give them a smooth finish before I start drilling. Here are my brackets that I'm going to be using. I am going to put use 2 for each shelf. The next step that I'm going to do is, in order to drill out my holes for my brackets, so the bracket itself will be in the shelf like this, I'm going to just draw on my rounded edge, the edge that I did not cut off the face, where I want the brackets to be, so I know where to drill the holes for those. So really I'm just going to do one on each end, and I'm just going to outline the bracket itself. And then I am going to draw where the screw holes are at. And then I'm going to mark either side where the post actually is, so that I know where to actually drill on my outline here. Okay, we are in the garage ready to drill. I did go ahead and drill one shelf already. So you can see this is where we outlined earlier. And I did drill the hole down into the middle of that where that mark was at. So you can see the bracket does now fit down into there, into the shelf to hold that. You have two options. You can stop right here and have the bracket kind of sit out a little bit, so it won't be, the shelf itself won't be perfectly flush against the wall. The other option, which we are going to do, is we notched out part of this where that bracket's at with a chisel, and that way the bracket sits flush, more flush against the wall and into the shelf itself. So I'm going to do that for the rest of them, but first I'm going to go ahead and drill this shelf. So I have my mark right here, and I'm just going to take my drill with my drill bit and drill down into my shelf. Now I'm going to show you, take my bracket and put it down in these holes, and obviously it doesn't go all the way down, and that is because the bracket itself is longer than my drill bit. So I am going to take an extender and add that on, and I did take, I'll show you. Once I have my extender on, you can see I took a piece of tape just to mark down how far down into the board I can go to where I need to stop for my bracket, because the bracket itself is pretty long. It does cover the entire inside of the board. I will link this one, but I will also link a shorter one if you don't want to try if you don't want the bracket itself to go through the entire board, and if you don't have an extender. In the warmth, and we're done drilling. Now I'm going to clean up my boards a little bit by using some spackle. I want these to be more of a polished look, a finished look. I'm going to paint them after this, so I'll put my spackle on, kind of clean them up, and then sand them back down, and then they'll be ready to paint. Just a side note, if you are going to stain versus paint, you will want to make sure you're using a stainable spackle. I'm going to take my spackle with my spackle blade and just fill in anything that I see as an imperfection. I'm actually going to fill in any of the knots. Alright, we are back. So we last left, I was spackling my boards just to clean them up a little bit. So I did do that, sanded those down, and then I am painting mine. I'm using a Sherwin-Williams Emerald paint in Tricorn Black. So right now I only have one coat. I am gonna put another coat on these boards, but I did want to show you how to hang these and know where to put the brackets on the wall. So looking at the back of my board where it's gonna hang, we have 4 points, each of the outer edges, and then the 2 brackets. So what I did is I took a level, held it up to my board, and then marked the outer edges and then the middle point for my brackets. And so I'll grab my level, and then with those 4 points, I've also made a few marks on my wall. What I did was measure the length of my wall, subtracted the length of my board, the 26 inches, divided that by 2, and then made my 2 outer edge marks of where my board will sit on my wall. And then these horizontal lines are just how far up the wall I wanted my board to be. So I'm going to take my level and hold that up. So here are my outer marks, and I'm going to align that with how far in on the wall I want to be. And now I'm just going to make that level. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw a line along my wall, and then I'm going to mark my 2 points for my brackets. So the next thing I'm going to do with those marks is take my bracket and I'm going to hold it up to my line, making sure that it's level, and then the center of my bracket is lining up with that mark I made for the middle of my bracket. And I'm just going to mark those holes here. So next I am putting in drywall anchors. The anchors that I'm using are these wing type of anchors. There's several different ones that you can get. I like these ones. We're not in studs, so we're just in the drywall. But these ones are nice. They give you a little more security because when you fold them, you'll put them in like that, and then as the screw goes in, it'll actually open up and hold against the drywall. If you're putting any weight on the shelf, it's just kind of extra security for that. So I'll go ahead and put this in. And then now I have my 2 brackets hung. The last step is I'm going to go ahead and finish coat my shelves, and then we'll be back and I'll show you hanging those. Okay, I'm back. We finished up the shelves and I'm just going to hang them, and then I will show you a finished product of them once I decorate them. So we have our 2 brackets on the wall and our 2 holes in our board, and basically you just line it up and slide it on. And you have your 2 floating shelves. I am back. Here are my final shelves all decorated. Thanks for watching, and check out more easy how-tos on lifestylewithandrea.com.